I just knew that I wanted the sense of peace, to not owe anyone anything. And I think when you get it, once you have a taste of entrepreneurship or being a business owner, you're like, you just don't want to be owned by anyone or anything, right?
How would you like to own your home outright? What would it feel like to never make a mortgage payment ever again? On our mortgage-free segment today, we're going to interview Sandra Park from Texas. Recently, Sandra became mortgage-free. Today, we're going to learn how she accomplished this family financial goal and what she's doing with her money now. Welcome to the show, Sandra.
Oh, welcome. Thank you so much, Andy, for having me on. I'm a huge fan of your podcast and show, and I'm just really honored that I'm actually on this side of the chair, you interviewing me.
Oh, it's awesome. Well, I'm honored to share your story, and thank you so much for being transparent and helping others out there who want to become mortgage-free like you did. So let's go through the mortgage-free 3. These are quick, short answers that help people understand this awesome family financial goal that you just had. So the first question is, what was your starting mortgage principal balance?
Yes, so mine is kind of a unique story because I did do a rather large down payment of about $130,000 down,
Wow.
exactly $130,000, and I had $155,000 left as the balance on the mortgage.
$155,000. Awesome. Yeah, I did something similar, Sandra, with our mortgage-free process. We made a huge down payment, and we had around, I was like 190 or something like that after our down payment.
Okay. I'd like to be transparent about that because I did pay it down, but I had a big head start too.
I hear ya. Well, let's jump to number 2 then. How long did it take you to pay off that $155,000?
41 months.
41 months. Wow. An accelerated time frame. Very cool. That's very cool. And then what is the home value today?
On Zillow, it ranges, but about $375 right now.
$375. So you own $375,000 asset outright.
Yes.
That is so cool. How fun to say as well as to share with everybody. Very cool, Sandra. Let's go into your story a little bit. Why did you want to become mortgage free in the first place?
For those of you that are familiar with the Dave Ramsey baby steps, that is baby step 6. And I also just see it as it's a way to de-risk my life. Even if you're not a follower of Dave Ramsey baby steps or believe in all that, I wanted to move into a phase of my life where I'm more of a business owner. Mm-hmm. And there's some risk involved with that, right? You don't always make a whole lot of money right up front starting your own business. And just the more bills and more risk I could take out of my life, it just made me feel better. And I know it's not a requirement to necessarily go into like having a business, being entirely debt free. Also, another big time frame milestone was my son going to college. I thought, how nice would it be if I don't have a mortgage payment while I'm getting my son through college? Yeah.
That's incredible. So having those lower expenses of eliminating the mortgage gave you a little bit more, I guess, confidence and autonomy and freedom to make some important choices for you, business ownership, and then also helping your son go to school.
Right. And moving into this empty nest kind of phase of life. And like I said, they're not requirements, but it's nice to not have that largest monthly recurring bill in your life anymore.
Absolutely. And it's tough to put these emotional feelings that you're having into a calculator. So it's tough for people to be like, that doesn't make financial sense. But I'll tell you what, it makes emotional sense to me. And at long term, I think it does make financial sense if you're starting to move towards a life that you are happier living and enjoying. So congratulations on those moves. Let's talk about some of the details and the process, because I think people are interested in how the process went. What steps did you take to pay off your mortgage? Let's talk about the both sides of the coin. Is it increasing income, decreasing expenses? What did you do?
I mean, really, it was just, I put down the very large down payment and actually budgeting and managing the money I made for really kind of like the first time in my life. I did move from a house where I had a higher monthly payment. And that house, when I sold it, I didn't make much of a profit. I mean, I made a little bit of a profit, but I rolled in profits from other houses I sold into this one. And I decided, well, I want to be here a while. I'm a little more settled in life. I moved into the phase where I'm in my 40s now, this decade of life where it's just, I would move around so much. That was part of the reason why I couldn't pay down a house, because I would change houses if I ever made any progress. I'm like, no, this one, I want to stay put for a little bit. I want to get my son through high school, the exact same high school, and not have to move. And he's going to move on to college where I can kind of live wherever I want. And I just was actually just budgeting my money every single month and looking for any margin or money left over, and not in a beans and rice fanatical way, like, throwing an extra 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, whatever. And it fluctuated every month. I had a goal of trying to put an extra $2,000 towards the mortgage, but it's just a goal. So there are some months I didn't reach that. Some months I was over that. Sometimes I had extra payment. So I didn't really sacrifice a whole lot of life. My income was definitely increasing during that time, but I didn't do a second job. Actually, I didn't even have a business back then either. It was just W-2 income.
That's cool. And then what did you do for W-2 income during that time?
Oh, yes, I'm an engineer. I've been an engineer for a little over 20 years now. So definitely higher than average income. But I will say, back when I didn't know how to manage my money, it really didn't matter how much I made because it was not going anywhere smart or working for me.
Yeah. Can you share a general range of income during that time frame?
Oh, I was definitely over six figures. I was trying to track probably like between 120, 150. I wasn't like, like upper 200s or anything, but I was definitely over six figures during that time frame. So doing well. But it was just really good money management, being very intentional with where my money was going. But yeah, I wasn't really sacrificing a whole lot of lifestyle. I was still doing some nice things and vacations and had some emergencies come up along the way.
I love that. That's incredible. Talk to us about that accumulation of the big down payment. Was that a grouping of the homes that you sold before, or was that also part of your budgeting process to say, hey, I'm gonna build up this home down payment? Talk to us about that.
Oh, a little bit of all of that. So I did have two houses that I sold previously, and those both did pretty well. And that was a while ago. But like I said, the house I sold right before that, I didn't make a whole lot of profit, but that monthly payment was about double of the monthly payment of the house I was moving to. And when I had a chance where I had a different job opportunity, and I was thinking, well, I could, it wasn't really a downsizing house. It was a different area where you can definitely get a similar house for cheaper. And that was a very intentional decision where it was like, well, I could stay out here, and I had a bougier house. It was a much showier house. But I also realized you can have a very showy house, and it doesn't really matter if you live far away. Who's going to visit? Who are you showing the house off for? Who are you having over? I don't entertain a whole lot. So I kind of realized over time, like, oh, I can have a really nice house, but I'm so far away from people. People are not visiting me. I don't really have a lot of chances to show off the house. I can move more in the metropolitan area that I was in and move closer to this other job. And in addition to that, the houses are cheaper. They're appreciating faster on that side of my metropolitan area. So that was part of the decision making. And yeah, that big aggregation of the down payment was profits from other houses that I had, but not the immediate house I sold right before. That was more to get the monthly payment a bit lower and move closer to civilization, family, people.
So the home before this, higher square footage than your current home?
It was pretty similar size, but I would just say it was a nicer build.
Got it.
Like it had like 18-foot ceilings, and it had art niches, and
sure,
it was a little more bougie and all that, but it was farther out. So
now I have to ask, with Bougie, did a little bit more expenses and a little more maintenance come into the older home, the previous home versus your current home?
Yeah. And I will say, like, that one, this is another thing I've shifted on. I used to always look for the biggest lot. I wanted like the biggest yard all the time. So that house, the other house before, had a much bigger lot in square footage. And this one in my current neighborhood, I don't have the biggest one. I used to always want that corner lot in the biggest lot. And I realized over time, besides kind of sitting out on my patio and looking at my backyard, I don't really make a whole lot of use of that square footage. And there's landscaping cost and fertilizer, and you have to get it mowed. And I hate gardening. I hate outdoors. I pay people to do that anyway.
Yeah. So the square footage of the home didn't necessarily change, but the lot size did.
Yes.
And that maybe gave you a little bit more time freedom to enjoy your life.
And just the quality. I think about it. If you had a house where it's like 18-foot ceilings, the heating, cooling, all that.
Heating and cooling. And I think, like you got to clean up there with the, like eventually the dust gets, I would love the tall ceilings too, but I keep thinking about all the extra work.
The worst thing is when one of those lights go out.
Yeah. Right.
You gotta get on the ladder to go
Yeah, how do
change.
you change those light bulbs? That's a whole thing, right?
Yeah. So I still have a very nice house now. It's just not probably like as like showy and as
Was,
impressive.
was there a point in time where you said, I don't care about being as showy and expensive and have a big lot size? What
Yeah.
happened where you just said, you know what, I want more, better things for me, not to show to people my
No, you're
greatness. Talk to me
absolutely
about
right.
that.
There is a
Was
big
there a point?
mindset shift.
Yeah.
Because you have this pressure sometimes, especially when you're doing well in your career. People are like,
Yeah.
stop living like a college student. Wow,
Yeah.
come over. It's like an IKEA house, and you kind of like listen to us and like, yeah, you're right. I am doing really well in my career. I'm making over six figures. I should live in a certain type of house and have certain things, and then it feels silly after a while. Or also just having that extra spare bedroom. I don't know about where you live, but here in Texas, people always have this extra spare bedroom set up. And how many times do people really sleep over or need to stay over, or it's so occasional? And we have this whole extra bedroom set up. So I've stopped doing things like that. Why have a whole extra bedroom set up for people that don't stay over?
Sandra, I think this could be a relieving conversation for a lot of people out there who have maybe upsized or whatever, even up lot sized their home in order to have, more land or more square footage. But then after a little while, you're like, man, I'm taking care of a lot of land and a lot of square footage, and I'm not really even like utilizing all of it. So this could be a relieving conversation for people who are maybe looking to downsize or just like right size is probably the
Right size
correct term.
Yeah. Because you go through this and I did well with real estate, right? So
Yeah.
you're kind of upgrading a little bit every time. You're like, oh, I could do a little nicer and I could do this. But then you start thinking like, why? And there was a time I had a house that was way bigger than all these houses at a 2-story, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom house, which is kind of crazy for me and my son.
You're right. Yeah, for two folks. Yeah, I mean we have a small family. We're 4 people in our family. But for people who have larger families, 5, 6, 7, whatever, obviously you need the square footage and to make it happen. But obviously, right size for you. Let's talk about the post mortgage moment. Did you take a chance to celebrate with your son? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I really did, because I'm very bad about celebrating things. And I remember someone telling me that they're like, you really need to mark the moment and, not move on to the next achievement and just gloss over it. So I did take a trip to Tennessee to Ramsey Solutions because I'm
that's
just a
so
huge
fun.
Ramsey.
Did you do your scream?
I didn't do the scream. I didn't do the scream, but I made a trip over there and I got to visit the studio. And I mean, I know this sounds terrible to other people, but the highlight of my trip was sitting in there for 3 hours watching the Ramsey show live. Dave Ramsey was not hosting though. I was very disappointed because I always tried to time trips over there when Dave Ramsey was hosting. He wasn't, but it was still a really cool experience. So we did like a whole week in Tennessee and Nashville. That was our first time there. And of course, visited Ramsey Solutions studio. So that was kind of my big momentous trip.
I think that's fantastic. Yeah, I've had a chance to visit the studios too, and it's a really cool location.
Yeah.
And it's in a great part of town. I think it's in Franklin, which is a really nice part of Tennessee where you can visit and enjoy. And Tennessee's great. There's a lot of great things to do there near Nashville. So that's a fun way to do that. And you did that with your son, is that right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I mean, and you've seen it. There's so much details and the history and everything he's put into that studio.
I love that. That's so cool. Now, talk to us about the financial side of things. How much did you give yourself back now that you're not paying extra principal payments and not paying the principal and interest? And then what are you doing with that money now?
Oh, it's kind of crazy because it just seems like I have more and more money somehow. I don't know. Well, some of it was I did get pay increases along the way, right? So I actually paid it off when I had a lower income. And now it's just, I'm doing a lot of not really long-term investing, more like investing. I call it like more like filling my midterm type of buckets. So I'm doing fully funded vacation fund. I have a fully funded emergency fund. I've always had that. I'm building up a car fund. Both of the cars that I have are a bit older. So I would like to buy a car that's actually maybe 4 years old for once in my life. Not a new car, but like a newer car to me. My other cars are 2013, 2014 cars. And they're great cars, but it's like the next one I think I would like to spend maybe like $30,000, $40,000 and buy a slightly used car outright. That's one of my other goals. And then, just filling up my midterm kind of bucket of, you know, where maybe I want to take a break for a while or do some big purchases. So yeah, it's been fun. And it's just so much more money back in my budget. It's crazy.
I love that. Now, how does that affect anything with your W-2 income? Are you eventually trying to move into business ownership full time, or are you happy doing W-2 and your business?
Well, yeah, that's a tough question. I mean, I'm doing both right now. I'm juggling both. And sometimes I question why I do both. I would love to one day do just full time, just be a business owner. I don't think I'm quite there yet. So I'm still doing both. But yeah, that's another reason why I want to set myself up to be as stable financially. As you know, just it's up and down, right? It's you can't predict income sometimes, and you need that financial cushion. So I totally admire people that are doing the thing, you know, the financial education, financial coaching full time. I'm not quite there yet, but I would like to.
I would like to glorify it and tell you it's the best thing since sliced bread, but there's really nothing wrong with having a stable W-2 job that pays you well for your skill set and gives you benefits. Solopreneurship can be good. It provides a lot of flexibility, but like you said, I mean, it flexes up and down with regard to income and expenses. So I never like to glorify like quit your job and go for the entrepreneur thing.
I'm
It's
glad
like
you're saying that, because it's just people are like, pursue your passion, and once your back is against the wall, I'll all work out. Like, I don't know.
That sounds that's for people who like to plan ahead like you. That can feel maybe even more claustrophobic than a full-time job. So I don't want to say that's the best thing. Do what's best for you. If you can give yourself enough of a cash cushion over time to consider that in the future, that's great. Otherwise, keep enjoying getting paid, six figures to be an engineer. That's fantastic. That's a great thing, and you've built up your skill set to do that. So obviously, do what's best for you. Now, let's talk about generational wealth a little bit. Your son has watched you do this, has been a part of the process with you. What kind of lessons are you hoping to impart with regard to paying off your mortgage or just time freedom in general?
Well, at this point, I don't feel like he listens to a lot of what I say at all.
Cheers to that.
The surly rebellious face. I hope more of it's going in through my actions that he's learning. I hope some of that rubs off. I do try to help him with his money. He doesn't always appreciate it. He's got to figure out some things on his own. But I do hope that he learns to stay away from debt and not do credit cards to buy a house in a smart way. Yeah. It's not that I'm opposed to buying. I'm very pro real estate. I just think people should do it in smart ways. And I hope he learns that, money management is more important than anything else. He's still of that mindset, like, I just want to make the most money possible. It's kind of like Jeff Bezos. And
Right,
It's like the young
the billionaire allure, right?
Yes. And like more realistic, like, let's just be millionaires.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, you know what? That comes with time too. I think when I was 18, I definitely had similar, billionaire dreams as well. Like, let's make as much as possible and then live for today. But hopefully, like you said, with your actions and the things that you're doing, those are good examples for him to model in the future. And that's really all we could do as parents, right? We can do our best. We can say some stuff.
You're like, no.
Exactly. The more you preach, the more they like move the other way. But again, if you have some good actions that they can follow, I think that's fantastic. Now, there's people out there. Now, I do have a question, Sandra. Yeah. What was the mortgage interest rate that you had?
Yeah. This is very fascinating. It's 2.5%.
2.5%. Now, I'm a 3%er myself and paid it off too. So we're in the same camp, but there's somebody listening right now, Sandra, that's like 2.5%. How could you pay that off? You could make so much more in the stock market or invest in your small business. Why would you do that? What would you say to that person? Yeah,
but there's just nothing that competes with that sense of peace of, I don't have any payments. I don't owe anyone anything. And it was 2.5% on a 15-year fixed. So it was really, really good. My mortgage payment was a little over $1,000. I never had such a low mortgage payment in my life. So people should have been like, oh yeah, just pay the bare minimum. And then it would have gotten paid off in 15 years. But I just knew that I wanted this sense of peace, to not owe anyone anything. And I don't know. To me, there's just something about. I think what you get once you have a taste of entrepreneurship or being a business owner, you're like, you just don't want to be owned by anyone or anything, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I feel the same way. I agree with the sentiment that you're talking about, and the amount of money that you now have that's available to you gives you so many options to choose your own adventures. As you're saying, you're filling up these buckets for cars and vacations and entrepreneurship. I think it's fantastic. Now, Sandra, I know you're out there helping people with their financial education as well. Where can people connect with you and learn more about what you do?
Well, I'm also on YouTube, but I'm much more of a recent person on YouTube. I'm starting that journey. I've been on LinkedIn pretty actively for the past year. That's where I'm really the most active. My niche is women in STEM because I'm a woman in STEM for over 20 years. So I feel like it's the people that I really understand the most, people that are more typically in the W-2, work cycle. But sometimes, to be honest, that's what people don't understand. These jobs do pay a lot, but they're grueling sometimes mentally. Not physically. I'm going to be honest, not physically. We sit in cubicles a lot or in a computer. But that's where people underestimate that these can be tough jobs too. And how do you manage this really wonderful income that sometimes people have and make it really work for you? And like you're talking about, create options in life. Because I do find a lot of people maybe, after they've been working for a company for 20 years. And the thing is, these companies are not stable. People get laid off all the time and they're hopping around. They have to go learn new skills. And now this contract is ending. Now we see like the government's requiring people are coming on site and just all this stuff. And people have a desire sometimes to create this life for themselves, or they want to work part-time, or they want to have their own business, or they want to, stand their ground on, I'm going to stay remote, and have to find another job. Yeah.
Yeah, having options is a fantastic thing, and Sandra's showing us the way. Sandra, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Want to see how extra principal payments can make you mortgage-free faster? Well, check out our free mortgage payoff calculator on our website at marriagekidsandmoney.com. You can access it using the links below and insert a little bit of information, hit the calculate button, and see how close you are to mortgage freedom.